There we go. Okay, so we're going to do some examples of drawing the three major masses here. Let me go up to the top of this, reselect my brush. All right, so here we've got some stewardess outfit lady or something like that. She's bending back pretty clearly, right? You can almost see the line for the pelvis going this way. Costume is kind of covering it up a little bit, but in profile, this right angle area that would be caused by the butt, that's kind of the back of that box, although it's usually going to float off in midair. And then the front would be the straight line down the tummy between the legs. So we're going to, give a pretty good angle backward like this, and just measuring this one, that one. I think it's good. I've got it bending more on top. I think that's fine. And then the head is just kind of coming straight off of that in this direction. That's fine. Head is not always going to be a part of the gesture every time, and we're not even really doing a gesture. All right, so I'm going to start with the rib cage shape. In this sense, it might go outside the body a little bit, like the full oval would kind of like go out here. But that's okay because we're not really just drawing the rib cage yet. We're just drawing the mass. Okay, so something like that is pretty wobbly. I probably need to zoom in a little bit more. So you draw a bit bigger. Okay, let's do the head. It's almost going to touch. It's just going to be the entire shape here, and it's definitely way over in this direction. There we go. Something like that. So if we were to estimate, this height should be about, half of that thoracic height, and then this width, right, should be a little bit less than this width, maybe 1.5 heads wide. Okay, so those are your basic measurements. If you absolutely have to, then hold an instrument up to the screen and measure, right? So I could hold my pen up to the screen and measure the width, which I'm doing now. You guys can't see it. Then if I hold it up here, I found that this width is about from the center line to this side, which gives me about another 50%, which is perfect. Okay, that's exactly what I wanted. Let's do the box. So the bottom of the box is definitely going to touch, probably in this case, and is going clearly in this direction. I want to make it deep enough. Something like about here is going to be okay. And then if we wanted to gesture in the leg, we could. It's going to go down from there, something like that. This one's going straight down. We've got a hand on the back here, coming out at an angle, attaching way back on that torso mass. I don't know where the other arm is, but I can kind of see from the rotation of the shoulders that her shoulder direction is something like this. It's going to be tucked back there, and then her hand is just visible here. So it's going to be just about like down. It's actually like down here, I think. But what does that mean? I don't know. Definitely her elbow's not going this way, so let's just assume that it's like lightly bending behind her body, but we really can't see it. So you can see how silly this big center torso mass looks. It's drawn a bit too big, but also it's just going to be too big anyway because the rib cages or the rib cage is cutting off way higher up than is reasonable. Something like this in this case, but it's okay. Okay, so I'm going to trim that down a little bit. Trim that down. And then have I drawn this a little bit too deep? Yep. I'm going to move this back a little bit. And I think that's more like a square shape for the side. So something more like this. Okay, so that's going to be fine for this first one. Let's try another. Okay, lots of clothing here, not going to help me very much, but we'll try. Geez, I can't hardly see anything, so in this one I might like actually approach it just for like an envelope. For like, here are the legs, here is the body doing something, the head is over here above this foot, and it's about this big, and then try to like deductively reason where all the pieces should be from that. I can definitely see the head is angled almost straight down with her nose facing her foot. I can see that her foot is underneath the nose area, something like over here, and that this leg is bent a heck of a lot more than the other one. This leg is also bent, like actually bent like this. So we've got a pelvis which is doing that somewhat. From that I can kind of say this is probably doing this kind of gesture in the body. So thoracic mass and wild guess here, pelvis. This pose doesn't exactly lend itself to this approach, but when I look at those three masses, pretty straight line in the back over here, kind of a diagonal line coming down to her hand, which is gripping the guitar, arm coming up, shoulder, neck. So I'm kind of just building a shape out of the visible parts of her to kind of figure out what shape the body should be in. Okay, so guitar coming all the way down here. I feel kind of confident that that's close enough. Okay, but yeah, that's a pretty tough one because there's so much clothing in the way. Black guy's pretty straightforward. Okay, although the loincloth is covering up a lot, you don't really need to see very much of this to intuit what's going on there. Let's see. I do have a slight bend backward in the body. He's not just straight up and down, and also his head's doing a kind of strange angle. So let's give it a slight bend in the body backward. And let's see, shoulders appear pretty straight. Thoracic mass like this. Trying to ignore muscles can be tough because it's going to make you think that things are the wrong shape and size. So if you have like a very muscular person, you're going to think that this needs to be wider than it should be. So just keep that in mind. Pelvis is doing like nothing. So just going to draw it in there. Something like this, kind of. His legs, I would just feel weird not including. So down here, down here, down there, down there, close enough. Knee, knee. Let's see, what is the head? So the head, it's actually coming that way, but then it's like also angled in this direction. So it's going to look a little bit odd, but that's kind of what it's doing. I think I placed it a little too close, though. Yeah, let's just erase and draw it again. Because there should be a slight, there we go, that direction. So it is coming out like this just a little bit, but not as much as I had it, really. Let's see, we've got those. This one is actually going to be like partially inside of there just because of the way I drew it. Got that. Back that way. And then this one, about thigh. Close enough. I think I still drew the thoracic mass too large. Let's trim that down just a bit. And rather than doing this through intuition, remember, measure. If it looks wrong, find out why. Okay? Hold some measuring instruments up to the screen or up to your paper if you're doing it on paper, and try to figure out what is it exactly that you're not seeing that's quite right, and figure it out for real. Because I'm just doing this fast. Okay? Feels better anyway. And the angles feel okay. Yeah, we'll just say it's something like that. Okay, let's do another. She's so small. I need another one. There we go. It's like she's so small. It was mostly dress. I couldn't do that one. Okay, so we've got really cool dancing kind of position here. I could either follow down the entire arm. This is one of those rare cases where I think the gesture would be the entire arm to tip of toe kind of thing. Like I'm seeing this go down and then down like that, like a whole bunch of fluidity and bend to it, and it's even more complex than that. But let's focus on the body because that's what we're supposed to be doing. So bending back in a nice arc, kind of stiffens out towards the top of the neck, okay? But we can still get away with just like a single arc like that. Shoulders are coming this direction. The oval of the head you can see is angled this way, but really we've got more of a square shape. So it's like the front of that and then the back. I tend to just do something like a teardrop if I need to show an extreme bend or angle like that. Just flatten out one side and let some parts stick out farther to kind of gesture a jaw. It's okay. This is going to look too big. because here are the tips of the ribs, and this is where it would continue out to. But about like this. Yeah, I think I've been drawing the thoracic masses too big each time, which is something that you can notice if you do a longer session or if you do several sessions and you find yourself making the same mistake. Try to be aware of that and then correct it in your subsequent drawings. It's a good way to figure that out. And her hips are going this direction. So we've got right about here, I would say, in this direction. That'll be fine. Now, I really want to draw in the limbs because it looks so cool. Let's see. Going this direction, kind of like that. And this one down like this. I don't know about that length and proportion, but it's okay. We've got this big dress, and ooh, that's interesting. Okay, so this is the right leg coming out almost straight, but then turning in that direction, and then this one is coming almost straight down like that. Really interesting kind of distortion there. Okay, happy with that. Checking the proportions, and then I can move on to the next four. Do you guys have any questions about this that I've been doing so far? How would you know? Well, if you can see hip bones, and if you can see the rib cage, and you can extrapolate out, here's how far that oval would go, and here's a line drawn between the tops of the hip bones, then that's how. Basically, if the figure were standing completely upright, right, then these things would be very close to touching anyway. Okay, so if it is bent forward or backward such that these are going to start to overlap, then you know that pretty much those things are going to start to touch somehow. Okay? Yeah. All right, any other questions, you guys? You guys see my approach here?
Yes.
Sure? No other questions? No anything? Is this helpful? Is this just crazy? Like, what the heck is going on?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
I just did not make a bean and make a circle.
You can, but we're going to do that later, right? So a bean,
I'm saying our mind was all bean. That's a good circle.
yeah, we're gonna make a bean eventually, right? But we want to make these first because these are the parts inside of the bean. There's one there, and then there's one here, and then little by little we'll abandon that approach too. Okay. I don't think I can make a bean out of this one though. Okay. Well, you can, just not a good-looking bean out of that one. That one's just very confusing because she had so much clothes on, I just couldn't see. Let's do 4 more then. Oh, Ninja, why would you do this to me? Okay, let's think about this. The gesture's like there. It's like this. Okay, I think I would use his legs. Something like this. A little bit further, and then yeah, his butt is suspended up here, and then where is this going? I see his arm sticks out that way.
He's definitely a bean.
He's like a ball. His arm comes down here, but now what is your body doing? So it's bending towards us, kind of like in the C, and looking up. So okay. Your head is going to be something like this, although his jaw is way up. I just won't address that. The thoracic mass is like here, and then his pelvis is like here. Yeah, he's just kind of all collapsed in on himself. I've drawn the pelvis unusually large, but he is tilting it quite a bit, so we would get kind of a diagonal on that. I'm looking at the proportions that I drew and thinking like, no, this feels right for some reason. I don't know if I can quite explain it though. Probably it's just there's far too much clothing here, and I can't see that the torso probably needs to be smaller than that. like underlying this. It's probably going to be more like this, and then that makes me feel like that box needs to be bigger, and it doesn't. So let's shave that down a little bit. Let's see. Does that feel better? A little bit. Yeah, it might be more like that, but this is a pretty rough one to be doing. Yeah, definitely his clavicles are something like this. The neck is going like an extreme bend backward. I know his shoulders are attaching right there and there, but yeah, okay. We'll just move on from this one because this one's pretty hard. I don't even know what his hand is doing. It's like all inside of a sleeve. Okay, well that one's really easy. But, okay, so here's an important thing. We've got two things going on here. She's supporting her knee on a shelf, and she's also got high heels, meaning that the heel is supporting the foot. That's stuff that you got to draw too, otherwise it's going to look impossible, right? So if we drew this without, like, her foot going up like this, but there's nothing there, and then with like her knee like this, suspended way out here, but there's nothing here to stop her knee from falling down, it's just going to look silly. So we want to put that stuff in as well. So let me start out. I'll just start out by drawing that shelf area, and sometimes I'll draw the floor contact point. Let's get the gesture. So we've got an extreme backward bend, but then also this counter bend in the leg, which is a big part of this. So I'm thinking that and that is kind of the gesture here. It's a little straighter up in the top of the back, and then the head is kind of offset to one side. So we'll say that's about the size of the head. Oh, what's the rib cage doing? It's basically straight up and down at this point, kind of like here. Let's see. Yeah, starting about there. It'll come down to about here. So hips got to go way back here. She's sticking the butt out because it's like one of those pin-up poses. So it's like, yeah, that's what you do. Okay, so back there. This is like the hip attachment point. And then if I were to draw the legs a little bit more detailed, we're getting foot, heel, there, knee. And then this one, we're going out just about to here, down, and then foot is hanging over the side, but we've got the heel as well. And then arms, we got shoulder, forward, mid center back, coming around to stomach, gloves, like that. And we can see the back elbow as well as parts of the back here. So how did that turn out? This is supposed to be more straight up and down, this head actually. All right, let's see. How did that turn out? Close enough. Yeah, close enough. And considering that the torso is probably the least reliable part of it, I think this is all right. Okay. Let's do another. Big baggy t-shirt, but I can still see rib cage in there, so I think we're okay. Also, the photo is kind of tilted, so like even to just start off, I've got like this slightly skewed bend on everything, and then it's a very straight gesture line. It's like it's straight up and down, but the head is off to one side. So I might start by drawing like here's a shoulder line. Let's get the torso in there to kind of estimate. We'll say about here should be the one. Okay, and then anybody's guess how far I need to go? Probably just the maximum distance. I think she's just standing straight up and down. Then this goes off to one side slightly. Okay, so we're in the ballpark there. Arms are going pretty tightly behind the back actually. So somewhere way back here. And she's got this kind of dress, which I'll just put in as a basic shape. And we've got like inward turned feet and locked knees, which makes this a bit harder. Something like this will kind of represent that, okay. Yeah, and then sometimes with a big hairstyle you can put that into. just for proportion. Okay, so I'm okay with that. I think that's basically what she's doing. And last one. Wow! Okay, cool.
You got this.
This is really cool. This is like a very, very fish hook kind of like what's that? Yeah, it did, but I love that. Like, if it's interesting like this, it's actually easier to draw sometimes because there's something happening, you know? Whereas, like, these people standing moodily straight up and down, it doesn't really do anything. This is cool. She's bending so far back that she's kind of at the extreme of what her bones will allow her meat to do. So you can see this top angle here created by her butt, where that's just like, that's it. Like, you're not going to go any farther than that backward. We can also see really clearly the rib shape, and it's almost even the correct size too. So let's do, which part of this am I going to do first? Let's do the butt first, because it's like even with her head, which is kind of cool. It comes back to about here. Okay, something like that. And then the thoracic bend is like way over like this. It didn't overlap though. Interesting. So it's like way over like this, and it ends about 2/3 to halfway. Or no, it's almost all the way. Yeah, it goes all the way over there. A little bit further than I thought. Something like that. I wish I had more of these poses. This was really cool. Alright, so something like that. I think I need to give a little bit more space between the two because I can see it. And then the head, right, is like right here. And the tip of the head, yeah, is about halfway down. Something like that. About like that. Okay? So that's pretty cool. And yeah, like, super cool. Whoa, turn around like that. Leg down across, and then it's going so far off that it's going to go off the canvas over there. Arm, basically a straight line in this direction, which then reaches back up at the leg. Other one, we can see the shoulder, but it's like reaching in this direction. And then leg pretty far out here, but comes back sharply and plants itself right about there. Something like that. Did I draw the butt a little bit too wide? Yeah, a little bit too wide. Kind of like that. Okay, yeah. That was a really cool one. So let's see all of them. Stop. Yeah. So generally, you should be able to tell what these people are doing unless it's really crazy. Like this one's all folded up, and so that wouldn't be the way that I would represent that necessarily. Sometimes the proportions are going to have to be messed around with. Like this one's torso looks way too big. This one looks really plain, but she was wearing baggy clothes. The top row looks pretty reliable, and then this one is really crazy, but also really fun at the same time. We would probably need the reference to fully understand that. Does that make sense to you guys, the way that I'm approaching filling in these masses?
Yes.
You see how much and how little they look like the original people? Like, it's only about 50-50. We're not getting a total resemblance to it. There's nothing to tell us that this is a beefy guy, right? There's nothing except for body language to say that this is female. Okay? This could be male or female easily, because there's nothing, like it's completely androgynous, right? But then some of them look more female because of the way that they're bending. I have no idea about that one, right? And then the resemblance to the actual people, I'm trying to get rid of all of that. I don't want you to be able to tell they're male or female, young or old, muscular or skinny from this step, because this step is skeletal. That should be fairly universal. With that said, body language is going to express some of the things. It'd be surprising if this was a guy, right? And given how stoic and placid this one is, it'd be surprising if that one was female. But it's not impossible, right? Body language could do that. Okay? Any questions? Cool. That's it. That's our demo.